Welcome! My name is Terry Lee Forster and I am one of the education staff at the Springville Museum of Art. For today's art lesson, we will be combining science with visual arts to create a unique fantasy creature. As we go through this lesson together, feel free to pause this video at any point if you need more time to complete a step. The lesson objectives that we will be focusing on today are creating unique fantasy creatures from random suggestions, learning about and discussing animals' habitats and how their features relate to where they live, and understanding what animals need to survive in their environments. Some of the materials that we will be using today include 2 images from the museum's past exhibition, Magic and Machine, Fantasy and Sci-Fi in Utah Art, 1 image from the museum's permanent collection, any kind of paper, colored pencils, and watercolor paints. If you don't have all of these supplies at home, that's okay. You are more than welcome to use whatever you have available. Today we will be talking about animals and their habitats. What is a habitat? A habitat is where an animal lives. For example, a zebra's habitat is the African savanna. An environment is something similar to a habitat. Your environment is everything around you. Think about a zebra again. How does the way it looks help it survive in its environment? Its stripes help it to blend in with the grasses and with the other zebras around it. Let's have a look at this painting by Kari Christensen. What kind of creatures do you see? How many creatures are there? What is their habitat like? How do you think their features help them to survive in their environment? Do they have gills or fins? How are each of these creatures similar to real fish that you've seen before? How are they different? Now let's look at this painting by Kari Christensen. What do you think is happening in this painting? What kind of creature do you think this is? What kind of habitat do you think it lives in? Do you think its habitat is cold or hot? Dark or bright? What do you think this creature eats? How do its features help it to survive in its habitat? If you could name this painting, what would you call it? The title of this painting is The Night Demon. Does knowing the title change how you view the painting? Which figure do you think is the Night Demon? Last, let's talk about this other painting by Kari Christensen. This shows a different kind of fantasy creature, one that might not look so much like a made-up creature at first. What kind of fantasy creature do you think this could be? What kind of habitat do you think she lives in? Look at her environment. What do you see surrounding her? Do you notice any other creatures in the painting? For this art project, you will create your own fantasy creature based on the characteristics of real animals. First, you will need 5 slips of paper. On these 5 slips of paper, write the names of 5 different animals. They can be any animals you like. Once you're finished, put those papers aside and save them for later. Next, you will need 5 more slips of paper. On these 5 slips, you're going to write 5 habitats. These could be habitats like the ocean, a desert, the Arctic, the rainforest, or any other habitats that you can think of. Once you have those written down, you can place them with your animal slips. You should have 10 in total, 5 animals and 5 habitats. Now you will choose 1 of your animal slips at random, no peeking, and 1 of your habitat slips at random, no peeking. You will then use your imagination to invent a new creature that has at least one characteristic of the animal you chose. it must be able to survive in the habitat you chose. For example, I just chose a pufferfish for my animal and the rainforest for my habitat. I might create a new fantasy creature that is a colorful bird that lives in the rainforest with the ability to puff up like a pufferfish to scare rainforest predators away. Here's what a quick sketch of that creature might look like. So that's my pufferfish bird that lives in the rainforest. Okay, so now let's make a creature all our own. Remember, as you follow along with me for the next few steps, remember that you will likely choose a different animal and a different habitat than I do. Your project will be totally different from mine, so feel free to be as imaginative as you'd like. So I'm going to choose a new animal slip and a new habitat slip. Let's start with habitat. I chose the desert as my habitat. Let's talk about this habitat. What does an animal need to survive in the desert? They would need protection from the sun and from the heat. They would need a way to get food and especially water. They might need ways to protect themselves from predators like coyotes or snakes. Now you choose a habitat. What is that habitat like? What characteristics does an animal need to survive there? You might need to do some internet or book research on your habitat. Now let's choose an animal. I chose a skunk as my animal. My animal has some unique characteristics. They include warm black and white fur, claws, and, as you probably already know, the ability to spray stinky liquid to scare away predators. A skunk eats insects, small animals, and plants. Now you choose an animal. What is your animal like? How are they unique? You might need to do some internet or book research on your animal. Now think of the kind of fantasy creature that you can create. What characteristics do you want them to have? How can they survive in their environment? For my fantasy creature, I am going to create a desert animal that has some of the same characteristics as a skunk. I decided to create a lizard with black and white stripes and the ability to spray stinky liquid to scare away predators. My lizard can survive in the desert by eating insects and hiding under rocks or plants during the day to keep away from the sun. He will be nocturnal. That means he will be awake at night and sleep during the day. His black and white skin can help him blend in with the ground under the moonlight. First, I'm going to use a pencil to sketch my lizard. Once he is sketched out, I'm going to color him in. Because I don't have watercolor paints at home, I'm going to use colored pencils. Remember that you can use whatever materials you have: crayons, markers, watercolors, or colored pencils. I'm also going to include some green, stinky liquid to show that he's like a skunk. Once your fantasy creature is all finished, come up with a name for your creature and write it at the top of your paper. I'm going to call mine a skizzard, skunk and lizard, skizzard. As a reminder, there is more than one way to complete this project. You are more than welcome to use your imagination and come up with any combination of animals, habitats, and characteristics that you like. By completing this art project, we learned about animals and how their characteristics help them to survive in their habitats. In the future, when you see animals in the wild, try to think about what their habitat is like and how they might survive in it. If you want to do more with your new creature, you can write a story about them. Include a description of where they live and what other animals live there with them. In your story, describe how your creature must use their unique features in order to survive in their habitat. Thank you for joining me today. Look for more lesson plans from our education department here at the Springville Museum of Art. You can find a printed copy of this lesson plan in the links below, as well as a link to our website for other resources. We'd love to see the project that you made today. You can find us on social media. Our Instagram handle is @Springville Museum, and on Facebook, we are Springville Museum of Art. If you post a picture of your project, make sure to tag us, and you can use the hashtag SMA Lesson Plan. Join us again next time. Thanks!